Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we only have 6 days left in the era known as the Biden presidency. It will be coming to an end on January 20th as Donald Trump will be taking the oath of office for a second non-contiguous term to replace him. But still, even though he is almost on the way out the door, Joe Biden keeps on making a fool out of himself, and he did some sort of a press conference a few days ago, and he had this clip here where, once again, he proved how delusional he is, talking about the 2024 election. I wanted to play this clip and then analyze it, and then there's another clip as well that kind of ties into this that is even more laughable and just perfectly on brand for Biden. So without further ado, we're going to take a listen to this. Here we go.
Mr. President, do you regret your decision to run for re-election? Do you think that made it easier for your predecessor to now become your successor?
I don't think so. I think I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump, would have beaten Trump. It wasn't about, I thought it was important to unify the party. And when the party was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to move, I thought even though I thought I could win again, I thought it was better to unify the party. And it was the greatest honor in my life to be President of the United States, but I didn't want to be one who caused a party that wasn't unified to lose an election. And that's why I stepped aside, but I was confident she could win.
You think she should run again?
Okay. Yeah, that's something. And when I say something, I think it's a whole lot of nothing. And when you were able to make out what he was saying, it's like he goes back and forth. He's like, oh, I could have won. I was the one to unify, but then I had to drop out to unify. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I wanted to play this piece by piece and kind of break it down a little bit further, pausing the video. Sometimes when I pause too much and don't play the whole thing through, some people like to complain, but nevertheless, I thought, why not do both? Let's analyze this deep and further on second listen.
Mr. President, do you regret your decision to run for re-election? Do you think that made it easier for your predecessor to now become your successor?
I don't think so. I think I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump.
Okay, so here's the deal. He says he doesn't really regret running, despite the fact that he did eventually drop out. Which, was he coerced to drop out? Absolutely. But then he says, I could have beaten Trump. No, I don't think that that's true. Here are some polls out of New Jersey, by the way, a state that Biden won by upwards of 17 percentage points in the 2020 election. You have multiple polls showing Donald Trump defeating Joe Biden in New Jersey. And you could say, well, these are like Republican-leaning polls or whatever. But at the end of the day, New Jersey was within 6 points. It was just as close as the state of Arizona was, with Kamala Harris as the nominee. Joe Biden could not complete a sentence. He was polling worse than Kamala Harris, and, the media was just ripping into him, tearing into him. He would not have been able to come back. And by the way, when Biden says Kamala Harris could have won the election, well, she didn't win the election. So, yeah, no, she didn't. She really couldn't have. There was really nothing she could do at that point because, she was just a weak candidate. She was tied directly to the failure of the Biden administration. And regardless of how much they want to gaslight the American people, it was indeed a failure. And we see this here. The Democrats, they're still doing it. They're still going on, oh, Biden is a jobs president. They tweet out today saying Biden created upwards of 16 million jobs and Donald Trump lost jobs. Well, here's the deal. There was something called the COVID pandemic, and you had a lot of shutdowns, largely that occurred at the hands of Democrat governors that went on way too long. And it's like, if you want to look at the Trump presidency, by that logic, he created in the last 7 months of his presidency close to 12 million jobs. 12 million, they say new jobs, but those are not new jobs. Those are bounce back jobs. Those are recovered jobs. Some of them were created under Trump, but it's not like Trump himself created those jobs besides pressuring certain states to reopen during the pandemic before a lot of Democrats like Biden wanted to. And then Biden gets all the credit for some economic recovery that the American people don't see, because you're just like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic when it comes down to jobs. They talk about this stuff. Wages aren't rising fast enough compared to inflation. A lot of the new jobs we see, they're going to illegal aliens. And it is true that there have been like 5 or 6 million new jobs over the past 4 years. That's not really all that solid. And they've been caught lying about jobs. And this came out of the Labor Department, and they said, oh, this is misinformation. And then they were confronted, and they're like, I don't know about that. The Labor Secretary, if people don't remember that moment at the DNC with Gina Raimondo. But the bottom line is that you talk about the economy, the American people don't see it as good. They see Biden as a weak leader, and Harris was directly tied to that. And at the end of the day, it's like you're not going to gaslight your way out of this. Biden was not winning re-election, and it was apparent by the end of 2021 that it would be very difficult for him to win re-election because his approval was consistently underwater, and Donald Trump was more popular than ever in retrospect at that point. So it's like, no, you would not have won re-election. In fact, this was the map. Biden would have probably done worse everywhere. He could not complete a sentence. He had an atrocious debate performance. The media was ripping into him. They wanted him gone. But if they were not successfully able to get rid of him, it would have gotten even worse for him, even if they would have done a 180, because trust in the media is gone. He would have lost Minnesota, would have lost New Mexico, would have lost Nebraska's 2nd District, New Hampshire, probably New Jersey, maybe even Virginia. We're talking about a competitive, or at least a more competitive Illinois, a more competitive New York. You would have seen a true historical landslide victory for Donald Trump, probably throw in Maine at large. Like, this would probably be a realistic scenario between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. 400 electoral votes would have arguably been on the table. Maybe you do see some crazy things happen in New York and Illinois. Boom, you hit 400. I'm not saying that would have happened, but would that have been possible? Well, in retrospect, I think the answer is yes. Like, where would Biden really have a unique point of strength in 2024? It's not like 2020, where he was able to capitalize on certain things. And even then it took some, midnight miracles to carry him to the finish line, you name it. But still, when it comes down to the 2024 election, Joe Biden could not have won the 2024 election. And he says, oh, Kamala Harris could have won. Well, she didn't win. So what is the point? Technically, Trump could have won every single state by that logic, but he didn't do it. So that's like besides the point. But the guy's lost his mind. We already know this, but it's like even on his way out, he's getting more delusional than he's ever been before. Let's play the rest of this clip and analyze it further.
It would have beaten Trump. It wasn't about, I thought it was important to unify the party. And when the party was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to move, I thought even though I thought I could win again, I thought it was better to unify the party. And it was the greatest honor in my life to be President of the United States.
So he says that he thought he would be better to unify the party, but he still stepped down to unify the party. And he says they were worried about his ability to move. Is he talking about in the polls? Is he talking about in general? Because he's, obviously we understand how incapacitated he really is in a physical state. But either way, it's like, what is he even saying? Like, can he keep a coherent line of thought? No, he cannot. And the warning signs were there back in 2020. I told everybody that, if this guy gets in office, it's going to be a total disaster. He's not going to win re-election. He's incompetent. He is displaying signs of early onset dementia. That was back in 2020. But then watch him in the debates, watch him talking to the press in 2020. He still had his moments for sure where you could kind of tell the signs were there, but he had enough plausible deniability. Now there's really no plausible deniability whatsoever. The guy is completely senile, and everybody can see it now.
I didn't want to be one who caused a party that wasn't unified to lose an election. And that's why I stepped aside, but I was confident she could win.
So the party wasn't unified, but Biden said he could win. But then she gets the nomination and she loses, but he still is confident she could win. Then he was asked again If you heard the end of the clip there, could Kamala Harris run again, or should she run again? Here's what he says.
Vice President Harris will be able to beat, you said Vice President Harris had a good shot to beat Trump. Do you think she should run again in 4 years?
I think that's a decision. I think she's competent to run again in 4 years. That'll be a decision for her to make.
Okay. So she wasn't competent enough to beat Trump, somebody that these people say is the worst guy ever, fell in this, fell in that, all these names in the book, everything they've thrown at him for 9 years. Kamala Harris couldn't beat him. She couldn't take him down. Now Biden says, oh no, she's competent to run again in 4 years. It's up to her. It's her decision to make. Now, she might run because the polls for 2028 do have her winning. But we already saw what happened the first time. And we don't know what's going to happen over the next 4 years. But if Democrats want to continue to learn nothing, continue to lose presidential elections, there would be no better way for them to do so than to run Kamala Harris again and make this performance right here look like a good electoral performance for a Democrat. So anyways, guys, make sure you guys like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.